What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 5 of the Bottom Line on Sports. I'm Jean-Jacques Taylor. He's Jeremy Pink. What's cracking, bro?
Got a lot cracking this week. I think we got a few interesting topics we're talking about. The first one is about, you were texting about it earlier today about NFL quarterback development and how costly that is.
The NFL's got a development program, man. So I was thinking about this today. So you got the New York Jets, they stink. You got the Tennessee Titans, they stink, but they already got a quarterback. You got New Orleans, they stink. They got a second round quarterback, so I don't think that counts. And my whole thing is this. If you finish with the top pick in the draft, if you're one of those three sorry teams, not including Tennessee, do you really want to draft a quarterback? Because it seems to me, if you draft a quarterback, you're getting popped. You're getting fired. You'll never be around long enough to see that dude develop because the NFL has got a quarterback development problem. And until they fix it, lots of guys are going to lose their jobs after getting the quarterback that they think is going to turn their career around.
Yeah,
That
and
makes sense.
it's yeah, no, no. What I think also is that that's costly for the franchises because they end up paying out a coach. And the whole goal is to get a good quarterback on a rookie contract because it's inexpensive. Now, it doesn't impact the salary cap, but it does impact the bottom line of these franchises. So what do you think's happening here? How does that change?
Well, I think the whole thing is, and if you look at the reason why this topic popped up is if you look at it over the last few years, really the last 2 or 3 years, and it starts with Brian Daboll getting popped the other day. Who did he get? He had Jackson Dart in the first round, Cam Ward. He's already gotten Brian Callahan fired.
Hmm.
And he just got drafted this year, number 1 overall. You got Caleb Williams, number 1 overall a couple years ago. What? Matt Eberflus. He's down here with me, coaching defense in Dallas. Because he
Hmm.
got fired in Chicago. You got Drake May. He got his guy fired. You got Bryce Young. He got Frank Reich fired. And then you got Trevor Lawrence. He may have gotten a couple guys fired.
He's getting everybody fired. But I think it's a function of both. I think it's a function of both the quarterback and the coach, right? And yeah, and I think that Bryce Young and Trevor Lawrence might have gotten anybody fired. Is what I think. You know, but again, it could be that maybe the coach didn't develop the quarterback well enough. But often, you look at some of the other ones like Caleb Williams.
Yeah. Well,
I think it appears like Ben Johnson has finally turned the corner with him. I think the one difference, more or less, that I see between Caleb Williams this year and last year is he doesn't take as many sacks. That seems to be sort of the main difference. And I think that's a function of coaching.
it's a function of coaching. It's a function of knowing the game and the offense a little bit better. It's also a function of if the coach can get through to you to say that alarm has to go off in the back of your head, that spider sense has to go off and say, "Hey, I've had the ball 2.9 seconds. I got to get rid of this thing or I got to run." And he may be getting more adept at that. But it's an interesting thing because quarterback at some point, and I haven't been able to pinpoint when it happened. If I spent some time, I'd probably figure it out. But there was a time, okay, check this out. Long ago when we were kids, meaning in college, when we were hanging out,
Hmm.
running backs really dominated the NFL.
Hmm.
If you had the running backs, you could make it happen. At some point, the game switched and quarterbacks started dominating the NFL. Because I remember when I was a kid, I mean, I did grow up with Roger Staubach in Dallas.
Hmm.
But before I moved to Dallas, it was all about O.J. Simpson in Buffalo until he started killing folks. So, but at some point, the game switched from being about Jim Brown and Walter Payton and Tony Dorsett and O.J. Simpson and the running back to the quarterback. Now, it may have been really, if we think about it, maybe it was Peyton Manning when he started taking control of the offense again and the quarterback got more involved in setting the protection and
Yeah.
changing the play and all of that. But now, my whole point is you can't win without a good quarterback, without almost an elite quarterback. And no matter when you draft these guys, and Anthony Richardson to me is kind of the poster child for this, you draft a lot of these guys and you go, hey, we need to make sure they're preparing, so we're going to sit them for a year, let them learn and break. That never happens. As soon it's the Joe Flacco thing. As soon as we're out of contention, let's play the young guy and put him in there. And I think you wreck a lot of guys because organizations more than anything else make or break quarterbacks.
I think that's entirely correct. I think the evolution when it went from the running back kind of being the linchpin of any team to the quarterback, I think that was an evolution, and it was largely an evolution to do with the rules. As the rules started favoring quarterbacks, as the rules started to have an alleged emphasis on more safety, quarterbacks became more and more protected. And as quarterbacks became more and more protected, uh, then you could do a little bit more with quarterbacks. And those two things kind of worked in tandem. And I do agree with you that once you have somebody like Peyton Manning who showed up, Peyton Manning was a coach on the field, the rules changed even a bit more. So if you actually look over the last 10 to 15 years, that's really where you've started to see the emphasis on quarterbacks. I think that in order for a franchise to be successful, I really think it boils down to you have to have a good coach and a good quarterback. You have to have a decent offensive line so the quarterback doesn't get killed. Those three things you need to have in place. That implies that you need to have a general manager who also has an idea of what he's doing. And so I think you're right. I think organizationally is the issue for most quarterbacks, but when you find a quarterback who kind of transcends organizational issues, I think you can look at somebody like Josh Allen. I think he doesn't have a great coach. I don't think he has that great of a roster, but he transcends that organization and really, builds that team and makes that team stronger, I think.
Now I think Josh Allen, he's interesting because my dad's been a season ticket holder at the Bills since 1987. And so anytime he moans and groans about Josh Allen, I say, Dad, you went like 25 years from Jim Kelly to Josh Allen without a quarterback. Chill out.
Mm-hmm.
Because you may not get another one in your lifetime, man.
Mm-hmm.
So chill out. But Josh Allen, the difference in Josh Allen and most other quarterbacks is exactly what you said. He's doing what Tom Brady, what Aaron Rodgers, what Drew Brees did. He's an elite quarterback with a bunch of guys named Joe playing receiver for him.
Correct.
And, that's one reason why they went out and got Stephon Diggs for a minute because they were trying to elevate the offense. I think they need some more special receivers so they can really take advantage of what Josh Allen does. He's not going to be able to run like he runs forever. And so at some point, they had Stephon Diggs, but it was the right idea, the wrong guy, because why? Stephon Diggs is a 7-letter cuss word. He's a great player who you got to move every 3 years because, dude, we can't take you anymore. And so he's fine in New England this year. In 2 years, he'll be on another team, and you'll be like, wow, Stephon Diggs had 1,400 yards, and they let him go because he drives people crazy. There's a reason why he got 4 baby mamas this year, man. I'm being there as he drives them crazy.
Right. But when you look at the young quarterbacks, and I'm not necessarily a huge Josh Allen fan, but I do think he's in a situation that for a quarterback of his talent, he's in a tough situation. Justin Herbert, again, I'm not a huge Justin Herbert fan, but Justin Herbert is, stacking together a few wins with quite frankly, with almost no receivers. Well, that's not fair, but with no offensive line because his offensive line keeps getting hurt. And he's running for his life all the time out there. But again, I don't think that they're going to be able to progress pretty far in the playoffs because I just don't think they have a line to protect him. But as you look at the young quarterbacks now that are out there, like whether it's Caleb or Drake May or Jaden Daniels or JJ McCarthy, who knows what's going to happen with him. As you look at them, are there any quarterbacks that you've seen at least last year or the last couple of years who actually will transcend, you think, an organization and still win as a result?
If we talk about the guys that we see, on the guys on this list we were talking about, like Jackson Dart has a chance, but a lot of it depends on who they hire as the head coach.
Mm-hmm.
But let's be real. The GM is an idiot. And so, he is.
Right.
And so because of that, his opportunity to succeed until that dude gets fired somewhat limited.
Mm-hmm.
If we look at these guys, Jackson Dart, Cam Ward, Caleb Williams, Drake May, Bryce Young, Trevor Lawrence, the two guys who have a chance to become transcendent players, to me, are Drake May and Caleb Williams. Caleb
I
Williams
agree
won
completely with that. Yeah.
because he's got exceptional talent, and now he has a really structured head coach who will demand that he play within a certain system and style while using his freelance abilities more as the exception, not the way he plays. Now, it may take him a couple years to get like that, but I think if Ben Johnson stays, he'll be like that. And because Ben Johnson is an offensive coordinator, offensive mind, his mindset will always be, we got to get him more weapons. We got to do more with the offense. So he has a chance. To me, the other guy's got a chance is Drake May, and it's for the same reason. Look how quickly Mike Vrabel gave the Patriots the direction that they needed back, and now they're back winning. They're not a great team, but you know what they're doing? They're doing the first thing that good teams start to do. They're beating all the bad teams.
Mm-hmm. Well, and the other thing that Mike Vrabel did was he hired Josh McDaniels as offensive coordinator.
Right.
That was a critical hire.
Matter of fact, check this out, Doug. Josh McDaniels is such a good offensive coordinator. He's been a terrible head coach the two times he's had a chance to do it. Because there's been some chatter already. Wow, Josh McDaniels to the Giants. No, he's a terrible head coach. Some people are just good offensive coordinators. Norv Turner comes to mind.
Mm-hmm.
Ernie Zampese, who was in Dallas for 5 or 6 years after Norv Turner left, comes to mind. Some people are really good offensive coordinators and don't need to be head coaches. Brian Flores comes to mind. Great defensive coordinator. I don't know that you need to be a head coach. You just need to tinker around with your defense and do your thing. And because of that, Vrabel, they got him Trayvon Henderson. They got him a couple of receivers. They got him Stephon Diggs. I think because of that, Vrabel knows how to build a team. He's got Josh McDaniels. I think they'll put offense around him. And I think Drake May, because of that, I think the Patriots are pretty much on their way back.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. I think also I think what separates to me in addition to that, what separates Caleb Williams and Drake May from some of these other quarterbacks is they strike me as if they are going to have greater durability. They are, physically. I think they're, when you watch Patrick Mahomes, for example, you never
Yeah.
think, boy, Patrick Mahomes is a small guy.
No,
Patrick Mahomes is probably not that much taller than I am, right?
no.
And
He's 6'3". He's a big dude.
he's 6'3". Okay, so he's a little bit taller than me, but he's not. You don't see Patrick Mahomes and go, wow, that's a big dude. Where you see, you see Justin Herbert or you see Josh Allen, and you see some of these guys are really big guys. The same with Caleb Williams. I think is about my height. He's about 6'1",
Right.
right? Caleb Williams, but you don't feel that on when you watch him play. He doesn't feel like he's too small for the game. Or too small for the NFL, I should say. And I that's also what I see with Drake May. So I think it's a combination of a few things. I think it's uh, the physical traits and the durability of some of these players is critical,
Right.
and then they have to be in the right environment, and they do need, they do need a. I think they need a decent GM. I think they need either an excellent offensive coordinator or a head coach, as you say, who's offensive minded. And I think they need a strong offensive line. Maybe you throw in a couple of edge rushers here and there. That's about it. And then I think if you kind of mix that up together, you got a chance in the league because of the salary cap and the fact that you really can't. Once you get a quarterback and on his second contract who's any good, it's a lot harder to win.
No, I was gonna say that's the main thing. You got to. I mean, there's the reason there's such a pressure to play these guys is you got to know before it's time to pay them whether we need to pay them or not. Because another conversation we'll have on another day is look at all the guys making 50 million who ain't worth it. Like you don't mind pick a guy 50 million if he's giving you a chance to win every week, but you don't want to be playing two at 50 million. You don't want to be paying Trevor Lawrence 50 million because those contracts are locked in and you can't really escape them for 3 or 4 years, and you're stuck paying that kind of big money.
Let me ask you this question, right? It's you're the GM of a team that has the we'll have the choice of the second quarterback in the draft next year. Let's assume that Mendoza goes first. Mendoza looks like an NFL quarterback. Okay. And you have the opportunity, and don't laugh when I say this name, but you have the opportunity to either choose a rookie quarterback or choose a quarterback from college, as one of the top picks in the draft. You think about who the college
Right,
quarterbacks who might come out are. Maybe the Oregon quarterback for perhaps maybe the second best prospect, maybe Ty Simpson from Alabama. I don't
right.
know who else. Whoever comes out, would you rather assuming you feel like you got the right offensive coordinator, you feel like you got a good coach, you feel like you got, all you need is you get that quarterback, you'll be in good shape. Would you rather draft a Ty Simpson, just use him as an example, or would you rather pay Mac Jones 20 $25 million?
You know what, man? That catch question came up at the gym the other day,
Mm-hmm.
and I was saying, like, I would treat Mac Jones like Daniel Jones got treated by the Colts. Like, and I might have to pay him just a little bit more, but the answer to your question is if I was sold that the rookie was like going to be a legitimate big time player, like I'm not reaching for you. I legitimately think you'll be a star. I'll draft a rookie. If I had any qualms about whether you'll legitimately be a star, I'd take Mac Jones or somebody like that on a 2-year deal and say, hey, let's ride and see what you got. Mac Jones made a lot of money this year, but again, I'm not paying you 50 million.
But
You
that's
know,
right. But
it's not relative. If you take 30,
right.
25, all right, cool.
Right. So if I'm managing the salary cap and I'm looking at my team and I have an opportunity to draft a quarterback to your point who is maybe good. I may not be sold on him, but maybe draft a quarterback who's good, or I can pay a Sam Darnold, I can pay a Daniel Jones, I can
Yeah,
pay a Mac Jones, whoever in the second year. If I'm a GM and if I'm a coach, I think that option is going to become more and more. We're going to start to see that more and more because it is over a 5 year period or a 2 to 3 year period. It might even be more cost effective, and it might actually give your team a greater chance of winning. Because if you get the right quarterback in the mix, and you see it with you brought up Daniel Jones, and you see it with Daniel Jones, and you have the right roster, you can do some damage. Can Daniel Jones win 3 or 4 games in the playoffs in a row? I doubt it. Even though he's a Duke
right.
guy, I doubt it. Uh,
No, you're a Duke basketball, not Duke football.
yeah, right,
You're
right.
Ohio State football and Duke
Yeah,
basketball.
right. The two teams that everybody in the country hates more than any other teams
Yeah.
in the country in either sport. But I really am going to be interested in this draft, particularly if you look at the draft class from last year, where I think you're having, I'm going to say you're going to have 2.5 out of 6 quarterbacks hit. I think Caleb's going to hit. I think Drake May is going to hit. I think Jaden Daniels could hit, but he may be injured too much.
Right,
Uh,
right, right.
and then I don't think Bo Nix is going to hit. I don't think JJ McCarthy is going to hit either. So
No,
I'm not.
I think those guys will be serviceable starters, but they'll be at the
Yeah. Yeah. So I look at that and I go, well, that's a pretty good draft if you get 2 to 3 transcendent quarterbacks. You're not going to get that every draft. That's
no.
why I think what you're going to start to see the Mac Joneses, the Daniel Joneses, the Sam Darnolds of the world, the reclamation projects or whatever you want to call them become more and more prevalent in the league. And actually, they're going to start to win too.
Well, see, that's the other thing. Like Kyler Murray will probably get cut in this offseason. Like, do you want Kyler Murray? And some of it depends on what team it is and
Mhm.
what they do. And it's all very fascinating. And that's because the game revolves around the quarterback.
Yep.
You got to figure it out whether it's an older guy or a younger guy, what to do. So the bottom line for me is, hey man, these rookie quarterbacks, you don't want them even in the first round because odds are somebody else is going to reap the benefits of their performance.
The bottom line for me, I kind of just said it, is I think the teams who are drafting high in the draft are going to actually be far more choosy about selecting a quarterback in the first round, and are actually going to look in the used car market, for lack of a better term, to find the next Daniel Jones or the next Sam Darnold or the next quarterback who's got some experience, who might be actually able to win with them sooner, and they actually might be longer term cost effective as well.
Okay, let me ask you a question. When's the last time you thought about, if ever, Sebastian Telfair?
Oh, well, I've lived in and out of the New York City area for
That's right.
forever. So I remember when Telfair, there was all this buzz about this, this young kid named Sebastian Telfair. He is
Massive.
a playground legend. He is
Yes.
somebody you have to watch. And you have that happening in the New York City area. You start this predates social media. This predates the highlights that you see of these kids on Instagram and elsewhere. You knew who the really good players were. You heard rumors about them, and he was one of almost everybody that I've heard about in the New York City area. He may have been the biggest playground legend that I heard of since I've lived in and out of New York for this many years. Him and Marbury, those were the two.
Well, they're cousins, but I hadn't thought of Telfair. I remember the name, but I hadn't thought about him in years. Former number one pick, 13th overall by the Portland Trailblazers. Never went to college, went straight to the NBA. Well, he's got a YouTube special out now. Documentary. It's called Telfair Final. This is not to be confused with the one he did in 2004,
Right.
which is called Through the Fire.
Right.
Not to be confused with that. But this one, the first one, Through the Fire, was about this New York City legend who's got the world in front of him. Telfair Final is about a 40-year-old former NBA star, well, NBA player. He was never a star, NBA player, living in the projects. He's broke. He's got no money.
I know, it's a shame.
And it just, to me, it just drove home how many guys you think. Now, again, he came. Okay, check this out. He played for 10 years in the league, played for 8 teams. So he never stuck anywhere. Career average, 8.5 points, 3 assists. Career earnings were about 20 million.
Mm-hmm.
My point is, if he averaged 8.4 points and 2 assists in today's NBA, he'd probably be making about $15 million a year.
That's right.
I'm serious, because the best players make 60 or 70.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that sounds absurd and obscene, but that's what they do.
Mm-hmm.
The best players make 50, 60, 70 million.
Mm-hmm.
So your lower rung players, they're like, hey, I'll take 3 for 45.
Mm-hmm.
I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
So he'd have made a lot more money if he'd come around about 20 years later. But as it is, I also think most people go, he still made 20 million. How do you blow that? And let me tell y'all something. Not that I have anywhere near that much money.
Mm-hmm.
But off the top, that's probably 10 million after taxes. Then you got to pay your agent 3%. That's whatever that is. And then, man, what people mostly don't understand when it comes to athletes, if you're making $2 million a year, well, I like to say it like this when I'm talking to my friends about it. You make $100,000 a year. You live what? $100,000 a year lifestyle. If you make $300,000 a year, most people live a $300,000 a year lifestyle. They don't live a $100,000 lifestyle while making $300,000.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're 19 years old and you've been a playground legend your whole life, and somebody gives you a 2 or 3 year contract for $2 or $3 million a year, is there any thought in your mind that, well, hell, I'm going to make this for the next 15, 20 years until I retire?
Mm-hmm.
And so you live a $3 million lifestyle. Mm-hmm. Plus, you ain't never had no money. Ain't nobody told you about, hey, you need to invest in a Roth IRA. You need to make sure you enroll in the 401k plan. Ain't nobody told you that, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you buying a diamond necklace and a Bentley.
Right. It is such a shame. I mean, I was looking at some stats about this earlier. Something like 15% of all NFL players file bankruptcy within 12 years. And I think it's precisely for the reasons that you cite. One is that it's that lifestyle creep. Oh my God, I got a couple of mil. This is unbelievable. I can do,
Right, right,
I
right.
can I can do whatever I want. Number two, um, it's they're not really, very few athletes are getting advice that helps them. They need to get advice that really will set them up for the future. Because if you have, if you have $1 million to invest when you're 19 years old or 20 years old, and you just put it away in an index fund, an S&P 500 index fund, and you put it away for 40 years, and you never do anything with it, just let it sit there. By the time you're 55 or 60, you're good. You're going to
Yeah,
be more than good. You're going to have millions and millions and millions because of compounding interest. But as we all know, but athletes aren't told that. And the third thing now is that athletes are getting money younger and younger and younger, and they're going to be taken advantage of more and more. And I go back, it's interesting. I heard Herman Edwards say this years ago when he was like talking to athletes about money.
right.
And it's a good way to frame it. And he said, when you get a lot of money, that's great. He said, get one of everything. Get one car, get one necklace, get one house, get one girlfriend. He
One
said,
baby mama.
yeah, he said, just get one of everything. He said, you earned it. You have the right to get one of everything, but save the rest of it. Figure out what to do with the rest of it. And I think that it's going to become even more pervasive because you have so many more college athletes that are going to be instantly wealthy at age 18, 19, and 20. And
Yeah,
maybe not the, tens of millions, but there's a lot of athletes out there who are 18, 19 years old who are getting 200,000,
five.
500,000, a million. And are they getting the advice? Are they being helped? Is there a program to, that helps athletes figure out what to do? How do they find the right people to work with? I think that's the impending crisis that's going to be happening soon.
No, I'm down with that, and it's I think Telfair is just an example of what can happen. Now he seems to be, in rather good spirits about it.
Right,
And
right.
I think the other thing about athletes is,
But, wait,
I look at,
but let me just say something about his documentary. I don't know the deal behind it, but I think it's a compelling documentary. I don't know why he's released. It looks to me like he's released it for free on YouTube. He could have probably sold this to one of the streaming services. He could have probably made some money on this too. So
I think, I
I don't think
think
he got good advice on his documentary.
yeah, I was going to say I think it's exactly what we're just talking about. Like he didn't know, or he didn't know the possibilities that were out there. And now maybe somebody will see this because one thing I think he has going for him is he has personality. And so now, because you have personality and it's innate, somebody could look at him on the show and go, "Oh, you know what? Let's get him a podcast. Let's get him a show. Let's get him a
Mhm,
YouTube
mhm,
show.
mhm.
Let's." And now and then maybe he could do something with that. But you know, it's athletes, man, and money. They've been they've been they've been a story forever.
What you've covered a lot of professional athletes, and you talk to them about, you certainly talk to them about the game and what's happening, but how pervasive is the money conversation in locker
Dude,
rooms?
uh, let me tell you the number one things that happens to players. Number one, you understand. It's Stefan Diggs has got four baby mamas. That I mean, that's going to cost you so much money. It's unbelievable. Um, but here's what happens to a vast majority of athletes, based off of my experience. So you marry a woman when you're 26. She stays with you, or you meet her in college. You guys are together
Mhm.
until you stop playing. And then what happens when you stop playing? When you're an athlete playing in the NFL, especially, your day is regimented. Your week is regimented. Your month is regimented. Your off season is regimented. You show up at this time, you go to work, you work out, you do this, you do that. Once you retire, you're home all the time.
Mhm.
which means now you're what? You're interfering with your family's routine, your wife's routine. Two, you're interfering in terms of what she does, how she runs things, whatever she's got going on. And two, the vast majority of athletes, vast majority, once they retire, they don't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so they become kind of lost. They go through some mental things
Mm-hmm.
because especially if your identity is wrapped up
Of course.
in being an athlete.
Of
And
course.
the bottom line is you end up getting divorced.
Yeah.
So
But
you
but
get divorced, she's taking half, or
yeah.
she's earned half, she's getting half. And that might not even include whatever child support responsibilities you got in alimony. So your fortune right then gets cut in half. And to me, divorce and children out of wedlock is the biggest thing next to tax issues that break athletes.
In the conversations in the locker room, though, are athletes openly talking about money in the locker room?
You know what
Or
they talk about? Based on what I've heard. Now, this is interesting to me. Most of their conversations are, "Hey man, my cousin Billy need 10,000. How do you handle
mm-hmm,
that
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
situation? Hey man, my dad ain't never been around. Now he show up, he want 100,000 for
mm-hmm,
his business. How when that happens to you, what do you do?
mm-hmm,
Or my mama did this and she asked me for this. How do you handle that? Most of those conversations are how do you handle family members
mm-hmm,
and close friends
mm-hmm,
when it comes to money, because maybe they helped you along the way.
mm-hmm,
It sent you $50 when you were in college and didn't have anything. Now you
mm-hmm,
made it, and now they're like, you owe me.
mm-hmm.
Those are most of the conversations. Now, what's interesting is some guys, Troy Aikman comes to mind, Emmitt Smith comes to mind, Darren Woodson comes to mind, especially in Dallas. Like Troy Aikman, especially Emmitt Smith, really. Emmitt Smith went to Roger Staubach and said, "You've become almost a billionaire in real estate off the field. What do I need to do to be like you?"
Mm-hmm.
Roger says, "You need to do A, B, C, and D." Emmitt said, "Okay." And now Emmitt is a real estate magnate.
Mm-hmm.
Owns a company, does a lot of construction and building around Dallas. And he's set. Troy is very similar, although he owns a lot of business. He's got a beer distributor, 8
Mm-hmm.
beer. It's a light beer for health addicts like himself.
Uh-huh.
Only natural stuff in it.
Right.
But anyway, those guys said, "Who's the most successful cowboy in town?" Is Roger Staubach.
Mm-hmm.
Let me go sit at his chair, kiss his ring,
Mm-hmm.
and figure out what I got to do to survive. Now, Dion used to tell guys, "You don't know what to do with your money? Go buy some dirt, because you can always sell land.
Mm-hmm.
You don't never have to worry
Mm-hmm.
about land
Mm-hmm.
losing value as long as you don't buy no swamp land. Just buy some dirt and wait
you're
for
good.
somebody, and somebody will call you and ask you to buy
Yeah.
it."
Yeah.
Um,
But it kind of speaks to what I think is necessary for certainly for the professional athlete, but also more and more for the college athlete, in the era of NIL and colleges paying athletes directly, is there's got to be some sort of either, financial literacy,
that's
some sort of program, some sort of mentorship, some sort of guidance. I think that has to be mandatory.
Yes,
Say again?
mandatory.
Mandatory, right. And I think that's what's missing. And will it change athletes having trouble? No, it won't change. But will it help a chunk of them? Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that is and I think, if you look at somebody who's 19, 20 years old and he comes into $20 million or $30 million, if he gets the right mentorship and guidance, he's going to take care of the next 2 or 3 generations if he does
Dude,
it properly. And that's what I think is so upsetting when you see and hear some of these stories. In Telfair's story, you're right. He's very upbeat, but there's an undercurrent of kind of sadness or regret or what could have been, and that's really tough to see.
um, you talking about 20, 30 million? I think it's even less than that. If I'm an elite high school football player, let's call it in Texas,
Hmm.
because I got 3 or 4 schools within 10 minutes of me that put out elite guys every year.
Hmm.
Um, and let's say I'm an elite guy and I get 800,000 for my freshman year.
Hmm.
Just doing what you said. Okay, I bought myself a car. Yay.
Hmm.
And my parents said, "Hey, put 200,000 into that fund we're talking about."
Hmm.
If you just did that, man, and left it there till you were 30, okay, now I want to buy a house.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. My money's over there. I'll go get
Right.
a house.
Right.
And if you did that and you played 4 years in college and that's all you did, and you made 800 every year, and every year you put
Hmm.
200 over there,
Hmm.
and did whatever you did with the other
Right.
200 after taxes. Even then, you leave college with an $800,000 nest egg, and if you just left it over there, because now I'm gonna graduate, I'm gonna go get a job doing whatever I
Hmm.
do.
Hmm. Hmm. Of
You'd be set at 35 and 40 whenever
course.
you're trying to buy
Of
a
course.
house. But
Of
you got to
course.
have some foresight, and
Yeah.
somebody's got to tell you that
Yeah.
because you don't know what you don't know. Like,
Yeah.
for example, how much financial literacy did you give your kids when they went off to college?
Uh, endless amounts to the point where I annoy the crap out of them.
Yeah, see,
And
I
I'm sure
didn't.
you did the same with yours.
Well, I did something, but I always laugh at it when my kid comes back. He's like, "Dad, this dude didn't even know how to write a check." You know what I'm saying? Like my
Right.
dude was six. I mean, sixth grade, had a little savings account. Hey man, fill out the little form to get this $20 out. I'm not filling it out for you. You know your name and your
Hmm.
address, and
Hmm.
here's a little card that's got your account number on it. You know, here's the difference between a charge card and a credit card.
Hmm.
Just little stuff like that. Just so when you get to college and somebody says, "Hey, Billy, I've got a credit card for you at 39% interest and a free koozie." And if your
Right.
kid's already used to credit, they're like, "No, I'm good."
Right.
If you're
Right.
not, you're like, dude, you run it up to 5,000, and you go, "Oh, I got to pay this,
Hmm.
or I'm gonna pay $15 a month on it." So
Right.
it's just trying to give. That's why I think mandatory is right. Like
Mhm.
all college programs that have NIL programs should be mandatory
Totally
financial
agree.
all while for the entirety that you're in school.
Yeah, and I think the rookies or professional athletes also need to have some sort of mandatory. There is depending on the league, there are quasi programs in place, but I think it has to be a very specific, a very intentional program, and it can't be a one-off program. It has to be a program that is consistently monitored, and I think we'll have far fewer of these types of cases.
Yeah.
Whether that's ever implemented, I don't know, but I think that's the way to at least solve what is going to become, which is a almost quasi epidemic problem that's happening in professional sports with many athletes.
Bottom line for me, it's a sad time when you watch a guy who was a playground legend broke living in the projects.
Yeah, but bottom line for me is it's it, you it's a shame to see any young person who has this tremendous opportunity and a tremendous potential wealth and watch it all go away. And there's got to be a better way. And I think it is, as we've discussed, something mandatory, whether it's in college or in pros or in both.
So big win by Ohio State over
Hmm.
Purdue. Comeback win for Indiana
Hmm.
over Penn State.
Hmm.
And there's been a lot of conversation. It seems to me between Indiana and Texas A&M, there's just a lot of conversation about the Buckeyes don't deserve to be number one.
Hmm.
Now I got to tell you, I don't really care because, as I've said many times, if you want to win a national championship, you're going to have to play all the big boys anyway. You're going to have to deal with Alabama or
Hmm.
Georgia or Indiana
Hmm.
or whoever. So
Hmm.
I don't really care where you are. But these other people who haven't had this type of success, they seem to care quite a bit.
Yeah, it's true. You just need to get into the tournament. You know, there's also it's this the college football playoff has what I think is an odd quirk to it, in that if you don't get a first round bye, chances are you probably didn't play. These are for the top conferences. You probably didn't play in your conference championship.
Yeah.
Um, or, uh, and you get a home game as your first game in the playoff. That might actually be better in some instances than getting a bye at for a neutral site. So anyway, there's a quirk in that. It also reinforces the idea that you just got to get in. But I
Yeah,
think the difference between the Indianas and the Texas A&Ms and maybe the Ohio States and the Alabamas are that I think Indiana's an excellent team. I think they're extremely well coached. I think they have an excellent quarterback. Um, but I think what you saw against Penn State with Indiana is Penn State's got a lot of big dudes. Penn State's got a lot of five-star players. They're tough to play against. They got a very good defense. It was a close game. Indiana struggled with Penn State. They've struggled with Iowa. They struggle with play. Well, Iowa doesn't have as many five stars, but Iowa has five-star on the defensive side. So Indiana's a great team, and will make the playoff and probably do okay. But do they have the depth and do they have the number of athletes when it comes right down to it to win 4 games in a row against an Ohio State, against an Alabama? Even Ohio State's opening game last year was against Tennessee.
yeah,
Tennessee has some dudes.
right.
Tennessee has some five stars. So to win the college football playoff, you're going to have to get through probably 2 to 3, maybe even 4 schools.
At least
And
three.
yeah, at least 3 that have these five-star athletes. Does Indiana or Texas A&M actually have the depth to get? They could beat any of these teams in one game. Do they have the depth to get through 3 or 4 of these things, 3 or 4 of these games? I don't know. I don't know.
I'd say the Aggies do. The Aggies have been one of the great underachievers in college
Well,
football.
Aggies are a great recruiting program.
Right. So
Yeah.
they are loaded. They've just always been underachievers. They
Mhm.
never figured out how to win big games.
That's
Uh,
true.
Under their new coach Dave Elko, they've been much better at doing that and competing, and so I think he gives them a chance. Indiana's an interesting team. I watched most of that game against Penn State, and I
Mhm.
was just shocked at the end where people are like, "Oh, that was Mendoza's Heisman moment." Like, I don't even think there is a Heisman front runner right now. Maybe the running back at Jeremiah Love at Notre Dame, maybe he's the guy.
Mhm.
But you can't have a Heisman moment coming back against a team in a 5 game losing streak. To me, that ain't your Heisman moment.
Well, and also he wasn't very good until the last drive of the
Yeah.
game. You know.
So
So look, I think if Ohio State and Indiana meet in the Big Ten championship, that's going to be the de facto game that decides who's going to win the Heisman Trophy.
yeah,
Unless they both bomb out in that game, and then we'll see. The only player who really, if you want to call it a Heisman moment, you can, because it was a spectacular moment. To me, it was a Heisman moment for the receiver more than anybody else. I mean, that was a great.
yes,
The receivers. There were 2 incredible catches, including the last one on that drive.
yeah. The
You
tight
know,
end made
and
a great one on the side.
yeah. And so, and I'm not saying, look, Mendoza was phenomenal, but he had some, those were some spectacular catches. The one player who I think is one of the only players who can produce a Heisman moment is Jeremiah Smith. Yeah,
Yeah,
and so there's a chance that if Ohio State plays Indiana in the Big Ten championship, and Jeremiah Smith has an enormous game, you might see what happened it's kind of reminds me of what happened with Devontae Smith. He
yeah.
was not really a Heisman front runner until the last couple of games of the year. You could see that. I could see that happening with Jeremiah Smith also.
Yeah. It's gonna be fun. This is we're headed into November where the games take on additional importance. Bottom line for me, it's still the Buckeyes. Everybody else is just chasing
Yeah, but bottom line for me, uh, Ohio State hasn't played full throttle yet. They haven't. I think they're playing in third gear right now. I think when they need to get into fourth gear and get into overdrive, they will. There'll be a handful, and I think they're one of the only teams out there that can win 3 or 4 games against teams with five-star players.
It's gonna be fun. Hey, we appreciate you hanging out with us. Continue to subscribe, rate, and review the Bottom Line on Sports with me, Jacques Taylor. He's Jeremy Peak. Till we chat again, you guys keep an eye on your money and your sports.
And we'll see you all next week. Thanks a lot, guys.